make a seal and the engine should run, but you can measure it,
Yeah,
like you say. So when the engine is like this, obviously it's a Vespa engine, so there's not that much in here that we need to worry about. But one of the things you do want to double check is the end float on the gearbox. So what we use.
What is an end float?
So with the gearbox, you don't want it to be too tight. So because you've got your gear selector in here, if it's too tight, you'll wear the gears out really quickly, and it'll be difficult to change gears because they'll be rigid. They need to have a little bit of movement sideways so that your shift cross, your cruciform can get into the right gear. But if you have it too loose, then it will jump out of gear because your gears will effectively be moving like that. When you're really pushing the throttle, that cross will just slip out of gear. So it's a fine balance. So what we have is another tool. You can either use one of these tools, so sell this tool. So it needs to be between 0.5 mil and 40 mil. So in fact, I think I've got the actual float that I use here. So I would say safe weight, safe clearance is about 20. So if we've got, there we are, there's the 20. So if you get it in that ballpark, then what you want to do is check it underneath here. So you've got a little bit more than 20. Just make sure. You've got a little bit more than 20, but as long as it's less than 40, you're okay. Let's go up. Where's the 40? There's the 41. So that 40 is pretty tight in there. So I'd say you're just about on the limit of what's okay. But the way you take up that slack is this washer here. You can get in different sizes.
Okay.
I mean, I probably have one if you want to try, tightening it up a little bit.
Now, obviously, I'll pay for it, whatever you use up here. So
I'll just make sure that I've got a bigger one than that.
Are you taking all these guts out?
Well, we don't need to. Okay. If we want to replace this shim, all we do is take this big circ clip off here. And then just replace the washer that's underneath. So
I think the gear tree is new.
Yeah.
Gear tree is new as well.
Yeah.
It's not gear tree, is it? Or is it?
Yeah, it's the gear tree. It's got, sometimes it's the input shaft, it's the lathe shaft, it's the, people have various different names for it, but Christmas tree, sometimes people call it. But yeah, it's good if that's been replaced. Then that's good because the springs in there. You don't want them to be broken because then it'll kangaroo. When you put it into gear and try and pull away, it will sort of judder and not be very elegant. Yeah, but as long as this is sealing correctly, that's okay. But I wouldn't recommend doing that.
Okay, if you don't need to do it, then don't do it. Exactly. If you need to do it, then fix the casing or come up with a permanent fix rather than this.
Or maybe still use it, but maybe not quite as much as that. You don't need to go crazy. And there's also, I was saying about the Loctite, there is another version of it, which I think I do have. This little green version on here. Which is like a bearing and oil seal locker. So what that will do is lock the oil seal in place on the outside edge. So you put it on there and you get that oil seal in quickly because it will stick, it will hold it like super glue. So if you've only got that seal halfway in, it might get stuck halfway. So you've got to be really quicker, like bang, 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 get it in.
How do you put the oil seal in?
I use, again, another tool. So for a Sprint engine.
Oh, so that's normal banging in?
Yeah. So with a Sprint engine, which is different to a PX one, I heat up this area with a blowtorch. So I just use a little handy one of these. We might be able to do it, if that's an earlier engine, we might be able to sort of go through the process. Heat it up all around here so the gasket won't be on it. Heat it all up for 5 minutes, and then that's going to be baking hot. And then I get the oil seal.
When you say baking hot, is it around 100 degrees?
No, hotter than that, I would presume. I get it, you know. So it's if you spit on it, it'll evaporate straight away. It's something that you have to do from experience, I suppose. Right. You have to, you know, 5 minutes with a blowtorch, go around, around.
Quite a bit. Yeah.
That's about as much as you need to do. But then you've got to be quick, get the oil seal in, and the oil seal has to be orientated so that the cutout in it is in the correct place for the oil way, which you won't get on a PX engine. But on it again, Sprint and VBB engine, you have the oil ways that are machined into here.
Right. Okay.
There's a hole that goes through there, and you want the cutout. I'll show you on the.
I think if you do that one, then we'll get around to it.
Yeah, but there's one in here. So that's the cutout, and it needs to be orientated in the right way. And you can obviously see that a PX engine casing is totally different. And also, what I was going to show you is how I actually get the bearings onto the crank as well, because there's a right way of doing that. There's a factory way of doing that. And the way that I do that is I use an induction hob. Okay, so when you're working on engines and things like that, if you can minimise the use of flames in the workshop, you know, it's a good idea because you don't want to be setting fire to stuff. So induction hob, oil, and then I don't know if we'll actually be able to go through this process later if we've got.
I don't think we have any bearings, so.
No. Okay. I've got an old crank that I can put a bearing on just to demonstrate if this is, you know, being shown to your guys. Put the oil in the saucepan, put it on there. The bearings go in there. Brand new bearings go inside there.
To get heated up.
Yeah, heated up to 100 degrees for about 10 minutes. Then once they're hot enough, the crank we put in the vise. But we make sure that it's only holding one web. We don't want it to be holding both webs at the same time because you can twist the crank out of true. Once that's up to 100 degrees, we use our special tool, a Sundance grip, which is exactly the right size for the centre of these bearings, because it just fits on to there. And it should just go plump straight on. And you've not put any stress on the bearings, you've not put any stress on the crank.
Okay, I don't understand. You're heating the bearing up. That should expand the bearing.
Yes, because the bearing has to sit.
So oh, right. Okay, yeah, got it. Yeah. I thought you were putting it in a casing. No, yeah, obviously. So then you want to shrink it.
We shrink it when we put it in the casing.
Yes, but then on this one you need to heat it. Okay.
Yeah. So
but that all gets done by the machinist.
Yeah.
So machinist does all of this and gives us.
Okay, so he knows what he's doing.
I don't know if he does or not. If you get it done.
This is the correct way that I've been doing it. I've never had a problem with it. It puts no stress on the crank. It puts no stress on the bearing. It's an easy, quick.
We can tell the machinist to do it that way. Rather than banging it in. Right?
An induction hob like that you can pick up for 20 quid. In Pakistan, you might be able to get one really cheap. It's just a really economical, quick way of doing it. There's no flames involved, so again, you're not going to burn anything down while you're doing it. But I can sort of demonstrate the process later if that's easier.
Because in my mind, I was thinking that we were talking about the crankcase. If it goes onto the crankcase.
Yeah, that's the next stage. So once you've got your, I'll show this down anywhere. Right, so. Again, because we're using a PX one, it's slightly different, but with the earlier casings, the VBB Sprint casings, you have to heat this up. And then with the crank, the technique, you can either put the crank in the freezer overnight with the bearings on, or what I tend to use now is freezer spray. So you can get different variations on this, and in fact, if you've got compressed air, a bottle of compressed air, turn it upside down, spray it out, and it comes out very, very cold. So this stuff, you put it on the bearings, and I prefer to use this one. It actually isn't that good. I've had better ones than this. I don't know, I think I got this from Screwfix or something, and it isn't.
What does it do?
It should freeze the bearings very, very quickly to minus like 50 degrees. So
minus 50 degrees.
Yeah.
Okay.
And with this isn't that good, but I found better ones. In fact, the compressed air generally is better. You can actually hear it and see it just straight away shrink it, and you can go plonk and just push the crank straight in.
What's the cost of these ones?
A tenner, something like that.
And how many bearings you can shrink off this one?
I don't know, because I don't do it on a production run, but maybe you could probably get six out of that.
Let's say, for instance, we have got, let's say if we're doing a lot of 100 engines.
Yeah.
Okay, and we have them on a production. So we go stage by stage on everything.
Yeah.
Okay, so whatever stage is, we just do one thing at a time.
Yeah.
So all of the bearings go in at the same time in all of them. So all engines are kind of getting built up at the same time. Would you think that would be a better way? Or build one engine up complete and then go to the next one, build that one up complete?
I would say if you're doing it in that way, if you've got a big freezer, put all the cranks in a freezer. The only way, one of the reasons I use
we could put all the cranks in the freezer and then take one out at a time and you're building the whole engine up.
That's fine. I mean, a freezer would probably be a more economical way of doing it, but I use this because you reduce moisture, because when you put it in the freezer...
This is exactly what I was going to ask.
Yeah,
but you could always lubricate them and put them into the freezer.
Yeah, you can. Most of the time, most people use a freezer, but if, for example, matey, your man forgot to put it in the freezer overnight, and it's like, oh no, I need this crank to go in. It's because you have to wait 12 hours, 24 hours.
And the other thing is, when he's doing it, obviously, the kind of like, what I want them to be in the mindset is that what they're doing is they plan first, get everything together, clear their mind what they're doing, and then in their mind they should have all the tolerances and whatever they have to work with, and keep all that in mind and then work with it, not work absent-mindedly. Yeah,
of course. But this is a quick fix. If you want to save, if you want to save yourself 12 or 24 hours of having